Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, right? What? It is Tuesday already.
Tuesday!
It's another Tuesday night segment with I am Stacey.
And you know me, your boy Ray.
And we are
the Lovebirds.
Are we the Lovebirds?
We are the Lovebirds.
Is it because of the last name?
No, it's because we really love the birds.
Oh, Lord, have mercy. But anyway, hi, welcome to another segment, another broadcast of Love Still Matters after the vows. And so, unfortunately, we weren't with you last week. We had to attend a service for a dear friend. So, we were not available last week, but we are back again today. And so, we are excited to be here with you all on tonight. Remember to tune in and let us know where you are logging in from, your state, so that we can properly greet you. And thank you for tuning in to join us for Love Still Matters after the vows. Listen, tonight I want to talk about honoring important vows. Each week we talk about a segment of the vows, why they are important, and how come they're important, right? So I want to talk about tonight, we want to talk about tonight. We want to talk about the portion in sickness and in health, right? And sickness and in health. A lot of people are entering into the season of cold season, of flu season, whatever season they be coming upon. But sometimes there's more traumatic sickness than just a cold, than just getting COVID or just getting the flu. And listen, at one point, COVID was and is still deadly, potentially to some people, right? To some people. And so we want to talk about that tonight. I myself has gone through a number of things while we were married, but more or less my husband, he has gone through a lot while we have been married. And from time to time, you've heard us talk about that. And he is on
dialysis.
He's on dialysis.
Home dialysis.
Home dialysis, home hemodialysis, in which it takes a lot. It takes a lot to do while at home. And it also takes sometimes it takes two people, and then there's sometimes where it takes one individual. But I want to talk about the commitment, to being committed during such a time, right? Being committed during such a time. I myself have a rare blood disorder, and from time to time, I must go see the hematologist and oncologist, and I must go through my treatments, right? And so today, I had to actually have a treatment today, right? And as I was sitting there, I was thinking about what people must go through sometimes before going to work, or even starting their day, or just even managing their day, right? And so while we are at the while I was there, there's many people who are affected by cancer. There's many people who are affected by blood issues or disorders, and there's many people who are affected by some type of sickness. Some people who even had dialysis, and they are there getting their treatment, not dialysis treatment, but pre-treatments for dialysis. And while I was sitting there, so I had to be there early in the morning because I had to get there prior to getting to work. And so while I was there, pre-COVID or COVID, they did not let your partner or your spouse in to come in and be a support to you, right? And so this time when I had to go in there, my husband waited in the waiting room. And while I was in there, all I could think about was, dang, I wish my husband was back here. It's isolated, it's lonely. Sometimes they leave the lights on, sometimes they leave the lights off, depending on what you want, and then the nurses are in and out. Once they hook you up, to your IV or whatever type of treatment you are there for. And I began to think about how lonely it is for you to walk this journey alone, right? For you to walk this journey alone. I also began to think about, good evening, Evangelist. I also began to think about when you are married and you don't have support, right? When you are married and you don't have support, what does that look like? How does that even feel? right? Because for a brief moment, that was me today. That was me today. Meanwhile, my husband was in the waiting room, and then I seen another couple actually come in, probably like an hour later, and I was like, "Wait a minute!" So the nurse, I was like, "Wait a minute, my husband could come back here?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, he could come back here. It's gonna have to be a while because we have to find somebody to bring him back here." In the meanwhile, I'm texting my husband. I'm like, "Babe, you could come back here. Ask him at the desk. Ask him at the desk, can you come back here? Ask somebody to bring you back here because there's nobody back here to be able to help you to bring you here." And so which he did. But I want to talk about, tonight the importance of the commitment, the importance of support, the importance of being present during a time when your significant other, your fiance, your spouse, or whatever you call them this day and age, because I don't want to get in any trouble, may need you to be. Right, may need you to be. And so I'm gonna have my husband talk about some of his experiences that he's gone through while he was on dialysis, because he didn't always start out on home hemodialysis. And then, as I was thinking about this, as I was thinking about this segment, I have some friends. I'm actually going to have them come on. I have a couple of friends who are going through or has been through cancer trauma, right? Who has been through cancer trauma. And I'm going to have them come on and share, because in this, when you're going through this, it's a lot of components. It's a lot of things that people are experiencing. And even with your spouse, sometimes you may or may not feel alone, right? Has anybody out there know what I'm talking about? Has anybody out there had a spouse who has been sick? Has anybody out there ever had to experience time while your spouse may have been in a hospital, where your spouse may have been home unable to work? Right? I want to talk about these things. I want to talk about these things. So, hon, do you want to share about when you first started your dialysis? How did that look? How did that feel? And I'm talking about when you had to initially go to the in center.
Well, first of all, it wasn't hard, but it was kind of hard for me to get back into a routine. I had to get up and leave my house at 6 a.m. to go to the dialysis center and to be hooked up, be put on the machine. And sometimes it wasn't an instantaneous thing. It's not like I get there and I say I'm here, I sign in, and they say, "Okay, Ray, go to your chair." It's not like that. Some days they say, "Well, Ray, okay, sign in, go wait in the lobby. We're not ready for you." And I got to wait till they get ready for me. And I would sit there by myself. Now, I thank God for my wife. I really do. My wife has been with me through some crazy, crazy medical stuff. And what I love about my wife is she really believes and honors her vows. When they say in sickness and in health, she was always there. She got to the point where she didn't want me to be at that dialysis center by myself at 6 a.m. She started coming with me.
So wait, let me back up. So when you first started dialysis, the very first time that you got treatment, I was there. I was there the time that you
the first
started.
Time
so I was there with him initially for the first month and a half. Every single treatment, which was 3 times a week. Yeah, 3 times a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And so he had to be there early. So I didn't want him to go alone. I didn't want him to be there by himself, because my husband has a phobia of needles.
I surely do.
He has a phobia of needles. And so, that was his excuse of not wanting to have to go get dialyzed. He didn't want to go because he didn't want to have needles, and so just even going there was a strenuous process with them, because they didn't want to let me in while he was getting the needles. They didn't want to let me in initially while he was getting set up, when I had already spoken with his doctor saying that it would be okay. But of course, you're going to always meet some
bureaucrat.
right, or
He
resistance.
wants to go by the rules.
Right, or resistance, to the point of where I wouldn't let up, and the doctor had to literally write an order for me to be there with him while he was first initially getting hooked up on treatment. And so I did that. Listen, I am not a morning person by any means. I am not an up early morning person. That is not me. I'll be up to the crack of dawn, up late, but I am not the early riser, 4 or 5 a.m. person. But guess what? It was beyond me. It wasn't about me at that point. It was about my husband. And he had to be there at like 6 in the morning. So that meant we had to be up early um, to get up and to be there. So we had to get up like about 5 o'clock, get ready to be there for 6 a.m. for him to be hooked up by like 6:15. Okay. So that entailed a lot. That entailed a lot on my part. It entailed a lot on his part because he was initially the individual who needed the treatment, right? Who needed the treatment.
But not only that, I felt bad. I felt a tinge of guilt because my wife had to usually goes to work at 12. Is it 12 now? 12 o'clock and 12 noon. She had to sign in for work. And to have her willingly get up with me at 5 in the morning to go to this center and sit there with me for 3.5 hours almost?
Like 4, yeah.
Almost 4 hours. That's a lot. And I found in her doing that a newfound respect for her as a woman who takes her vows seriously. We say stuff. We'll say anything at that altar to impress the crowd that's there. But when it actually comes time to put it into action, where we say, in sickness and in health, forsaking all others. Do we really forsake all others? Are we willing to be there? I've seen my wife actually get into heated discussions with hospital administrators because she doesn't leave me in the hospital by myself. She doesn't. And that takes a special kind of person to want to stay there, to be with you, to be sleeping in a chair, just to watch over you, make sure that they ain't doing nothing crazy to you. And it just means a lot. It means a lot. And I tell my wife all the time, I don't believe anybody else would do what you do for me. She said, "Oh, you and your other women would have took care of you." I said, "No, baby, not like you take care of me. You outshine all of them."
But we want to say good evening to Mother Harris. Thank you so much for joining us. So again, we're talking about the honoring the vows, the piece about sickness, the piece about commitment, and being there and being present during a time when your when your significant other, fiance, partner, whatever, is in need. Right. And sometimes it may not even be something as severe as dialysis and or cancer or something of that nature. But it's still significant. It's still significant. It may be small, but I want people to understand the importance of being present in your relationship, showing up for your relationship. It's important to show up.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
Sometimes we let pride get a hold of us, and we don't want to say anything to nobody. We don't. If you're not volunteering, I'm not going to ask you because you should know. No, listen. sometimes you gotta eat that little humble pie, as they say, and tell them, baby, I need you for this. Can you come and do this with me? Because I don't know how I could ever do some of the things I've done with my medical situation if my wife had not been there every step of the way.
Well, I'm sure you would have. I'm sure you would have managed, right? I'm sure you would. I'm sure you would have managed. But it's important to know that you have support. So my mom, she's on here tonight, and I always give honor to my mom for being an example and a role model, right? Because my mom, like I always say, you never know what somebody goes through until you have to experience it
Yes.
yourself, right? Because experience is the best teacher. Experience is the best teacher, right? And so my dad was on dialysis, and my dad was sick a lot towards the end um of his journey here on the earth, right? He was sick a lot. And my mom she would always make it look so easy. She would always make it look so easy, regardless of what he was going through, And so I'm the type of person, I'm very supportive of people by nature. And so, my mom would be at the hospital with my dad. I didn't want my mom to be there alone. And plus, I didn't want my dad to be there alone. So, we would stay with my dad sometimes together all night, or we would rotate, who stayed at night, who stayed during the day, and things of that nature. And so she always made it look easy until now is my turn to step up, right? And my marriage is my turn to do this. It's not as easy as it looked on the outside looking in, right? On the outside looking in, because now I'm the one who has to sit in this seat. I have to be that one to be the support from my husband. And a lot of times, the person who's being the support, they really have nowhere to turn to, right? You really have nowhere to turn to. Because to be honest with you, I'll never forget the day when my husband's, well, your physician was talking to him about this pre-dialysis, talking about his numbers and, his dialysis numbers and his creatinine and all that stuff. And it was the one time, I'll never forget, the one time when we were in the office and, he said to my husband, well, Ray, you know, you're going to probably have to end up on dialysis. We're going to have to send you to a nephrologist, and you're going to have to end up on dialysis. I will never forget that moment. My dad had already passed away. It had probably been probably about give or take 2 years or more that my dad had passed away. And so let me just apologize for any technical difficulties. StreamYard has made it known that there are some technical difficulties, that Facebook messages are not showing up. And there may be some technical difficulties. So we do apologize for any technical difficulties that may be happening on tonight. So with that being said, we're going to continue. We bind any adversaries of the airways that may be trying to trouble us through technology on tonight, because this is important. This is important. This here is important. It is an important piece to be able to hear, because a lot of times people are not there. People do not show up for one another. Right? People do not show up for one another. And I want to make sure that people are hearing what we are sharing. People are hearing what we are sharing. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit next week too, because the enemy tries to play tricks with this social media um, platform, right? The social media platform, because it's saying that the video is not playing or able to play. Okay. So I want to continue to talk about, I've talked to a number of women who have been pregnant, and they tell me that, hey, listen, during my pregnancy, my husband wasn't there a lot. He wasn't very supportive. He didn't understand what I was going through. Right. He didn't understand what I was going through. Being pregnant alone is stressful. Being pregnant alone is very stressful. right? It entails a lot for a woman in her body to be pregnant. She goes through the stretching, she goes through the transformation, she goes through the changes, she goes through mood swings, she goes through different stages and cravings and wanting different things, right? And to have to go through that alone while you're married is very painful. It's very painful to have to go through that while you are married, right? So we need to talk about ways of being there. One of them is showing up, being supportive. If you can't show up because of maybe work or other obligations, be there to be an ear. Be there to listen. You want to share some
Well,
ways that you can be supportive?
yeah, just like you said, just be a listener. Listen, I've learned as a counselor that people, when they talk, they just want to vent to somebody. They don't really need your input. They don't really want your answers. I just want to have somebody to talk to. And when a person is sick, that's what they cherish the most. To have people come and be a listening ear. To say, how you doing? How's it going?
Hmm.
And just a chit chat. Did you see the game last night? There's a million different things you could say to a person who's going through something to help ease their mind. And in a marriage relationship, we are supposed to uphold one another, soothe one another, try to help each other go through the hard times that we're enduring.
Yeah.
Because, like she said, when my wife is pregnant, listen, I tried to be there for whatever I could do. I mean, some of the things I could do, some things I couldn't do, but I tried to be there.
But it's important. It's important. It's important to showing up, right? That is the number one rule, goal in your vow of sickness and in health. One, showing up. Two, listening, right? Listening, being attentive, and helping. He talked about being a listener. A lot of times people just want someone to talk to, someone to share with, someone to be there, or to be with them while they're going through whatever. Like I said, today, it was very lonely. Right? I have my phone. I could have been on social media. I have my phone. I could have been reading my Bible. I have my phone. I could have been doing many other things. But it's different when you have somebody actually sitting there with you, holding your hand, talking to you, drinking your juice, right? Drinking my juice. Drinking my juice. Drinking my cranberry
Sharing the juice. Sharing the juice.
Some might call it sharing. Others may call it drinking.
Sharing
drinking my juice, right? No, so in all honesty, and just joking. But having someone show up for you, that is the biggest piece. Listen, when people are going through, when they have these benefit dinners or they have fundraisers for you while you're sick, the most important part of that is people showing up to be there for you. Right? Most people are always amazed and surprised at all the people who showed up for them at this benefit, at this dinner, at this fundraiser, at this event. They came and they thought about me, right? They came and they thought about me. That's what people say, right? So we are going to talk about this more next week. I am not sure what is happening here with our social media, but we want to say thank you for tuning in. But listen, tune in next week for part 2 of why do I need to be present if you're going through a sickness. All right. So thank you so much. I'm Stacy and this is Ray and we are the Lovebirds.
We love you.
And so click like and share. Invite someone to come on and join and watch with you. You can find us on Fellowship of Sons page. You can find us on Ascend page. You can find us on my personal page. And you can find us on YouTube on our own page, Love Still Matters After the Vows. Love Still Matters After the Vows. You can find us on either one of those pages to get on, to watch us. Yeah, I have people messaging me saying that it kicked people off. All right, so we'll tune in next week. Love you all. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, and we'll see you next week. God bless.
Peace.